is that? Yee! We getting it, boy.
What's good? You know who it is. It's your boy, Jay in the Bay.
Your baller back again. Smells like football season.
Yo. Whoa.
Faithful Niner Empire. What's good? Hey, welcome back. To another broadcast of Straight Out of the Bay. We've got Celts Chronicles. We've got Bay Area Baller 18. We have Amin the Dream. And of course, you got Jay in the Bay. Hopefully, everyone's having an excellent Monday night. Before we get into all the news that happened today involving our 49ers, let's start off with how is everyone doing? Amin the Dream, kick it off.
I'm doing good. Another Monday talking Niner ball, so can't complain.
How you doing, E?
Hey, feeling good. Happy to be here. You know, just watching these moves because the goal of the offseason is to get better. So we'll discuss whether we think this Niner team is improving.
Yeah, just another day, man. It's good to be back. It's been a minute, so I'm excited, man. It's always good to get together with you guys. So yeah, man, let's do it. Yeah.
Hey, absolutely. No matter what channel you're watching on now, whether it's Celts Chronicles, Jay in the Bay, the Straight Out of the Bay YouTube channel, Amin the Dream, Bay Area Baller. Make sure you make sure you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe if you haven't. But fellas, I don't know I know we've talked about BA, Brandon Ayuk, but today was the first news I heard that the Niners were actually fielding trade offers for BA. I was kind of surprised. Obviously, we know BA, final year of his rookie contract. He's already playing. He will, if the Niners don't extend him or trade him, he will be playing on his fifth-year option this season. Obviously, BA wants to give Brokaw something proper. We know Calvin Ridley signed with the Tennessee Titans. I think it was like 4 years, 92, something like that. So BA most likely wants to get something similar to that. For those that don't know, the Jags did offer up what they offer their first round pick, which is pick 17 overall in this year's draft. And also, what was this? The wide receiver, Zay Jones. Zay Jones, exactly, for Brandon Ayuk. Now, the Jags felt like that was too much compensation. And obviously that trade did not go through. But fellas, were you surprised that the 49ers were fielding offers for BA, or are they just doing their due diligence just in case they can't, agree to a contract extension this offseason with BA? And before anyone answers, the Niners don't have to do anything. BA is going to be pissed, of course, if he doesn't get traded to a team that wants to sign him long term. But the Niners don't have to do anything. The BA can play on his fifth-year option this season. He's probably going to miss camp. The Niners want to avoid that, of course, at all costs. But everyone has a price, and I just don't. We'll get into it. How do you feel? Were you guys surprised by this? And do you think we should keep BA at all costs? Let's start off with Bay Area Baller, man. What you got?
You know, to be honest, I didn't put a lot of credence into the rumor. I know it was being reported. A lot of times these rumors, fellas, I mean, I thought Zach Wilson was about to be a Niner, right? So it depends who the rumor is coming from. Is it coming from Adam Schefter? Is it coming from Ian Rappaport? Like, if it was from those two, I'd give it some credence. But some of the accounts I saw kind of putting it out there, floating it, I wasn't all that confident in, or I personally didn't know them that well. So I wasn't really believing it, to be honest. That being said, that's not enough. Pick 17 and Zay Jones, it ain't enough. Like, that's add a second round pick to that, and maybe, because like you said, Jay, I love how you included that. Every player has a price, right? But for BA, to me, it's more than pick 17. And Zay Jones, who's like a wide receiver 3 in this league. Yeah. So I wasn't buying it. I want to hold on to BA unless somebody overwhelms you with the deal. then I can understand it if you're getting multiple picks, including a first round pick, which you might think I'm crazy. Maybe I'm asking for too much, but that's how highly I think of BA.
Hey, and just to clarify, I saw the article on Niners Nation. I think that's a reputable place. I think his name is Kyle Posey. I've seen him on with Larry Krueger. So, I took it as a legit. Maybe it is, maybe it not. We'll never know. But just to clarify, did you see anyone else report that? Like, as far as the guys you mentioned, Eric, like Mayoko or Schefter, they didn't.
I want to say it was a Jags beat writer too. It was a young lady. I didn't get her name. She also had reported something similar with
Okay.
that trade. But again, if it's Schefter, if it's Rappaport, my ears perk up.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
What did you think about it? The dream? What were your thoughts, man, when you heard about that?
See, Baller got me thinking because Baller was like 17, Zay Jones ain't enough for Brandon Ayuk. Now, I was looking at what Devontae Adams got traded for because I wanted to see what the market was of receivers getting traded to, different teams, like at least star caliber receivers. And Devontae Adams was traded for a first, number 22 overall pick, and a second round pick. Right? So, like, even Stephon Diggs, I think Stephon Diggs got traded for, I think, a first and a seventh. I might be mistaken, but similar compensation to what potentially the Jaguars could have been offering. So, it's one of those instances where just based off the market of the last couple of years of receivers getting traded and what they've been getting traded for, if that was hypothetically the Jaguars' offer, I wouldn't say it was unreasonable, but obviously I don't take that much stock into it because it wasn't, like you said, Baller, tweeted by maybe a Schefter or a Rappaport or a trusted source. It was like you said, Baller, some like reporter, Jacksonville Jaguars reporter, and then Mayoko caught onto the story a little bit. But yeah, it's a rumor, but here's the way I look at the whole situation with BA is that if I'm the Niners, obviously I'm doing my due diligence if a team is calling. Like, I remember watching, I watched the documentary a lot, but The Last Dance, and even Jerry Krause was saying, as a GM, if I don't listen to what other teams have to offer, I'm not doing my job. So if the Niners are listening to what other teams have to offer and teams are calling up the Niners and being like, is Brandon Ayuk available? Here's what we're willing to offer. I mean, that's just John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan doing their job. Now, if the Niners went out and were like, yo, Jacksonville, what would you offer for Brandon Ayuk? Then I would be a little bit surprised if they're actually trying to go out and shop him themselves. But if teams are calling Brandon Ayuk, which I'm not surprised that teams are calling to see what Brandon Ayuk's value is, because Brandon Ayuk is a stud receiver and teams are looking for receivers. Like just last season, the Carolina Panthers wanted a star receiver and they were in the receiver market trying to get a wide receiver number one. So teams want wide receivers and proven wide receivers in this league. So, I mean, I'm not really taking that much stock into this report, but the Niners and John Lynch are just doing their job by listening to what if teams are calling up, and saying, what do we want? What do you guys want for Brandon Ayuk? John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are just doing their job. But yeah, I think they end up getting a contract. I think they end up getting an extension done sooner or later. But yeah, I'm not taking that much stock into it.
Yeah, who knows, man? I might have started lightweight the rumors, a while back. I've been talking all off season about going up to get Fuaga or Latham, or I mean Latham. Just going to solidify that offensive line. It's a little scary, man. Having 60 million, into the wide receiver room. I don't know a gang about contracts. I'm pretty sure at some point you would be able to maneuver something, whether it's Debo down the road or whatever. But I want to see that offensive line get tremendously better, man. We've just been kind of treading water for who knows how many years, maybe since the Harbaugh days, and so I want to see what this team looks like when that's not always one of the weakest links. It was always offensive line and the secondary and the offensive line. I know we got the one big piece. If you go look at how much teams are investing as far as money, I think we're in the top 10, but I want to bring up some research that I created on my own about the offensive line. And I'm going off of BA, but it's just hard because I love BA. It just feels like the more and more we're going to have Debo, maybe he was the one that coulda, shoulda, woulda last year been traded, but it is what it is. I'm still happy if we have both. We've shown that we could still get by and do great things with what we have. And I know our team's probably going to get better, but yeah, I think it's real. You got to, I could see Shanahan and Lynch, coming up saying, "Hey, we're listening to everything. We're trying to improve any way possible." So they're searching for everything. They're listening to everything, but we'll see. Like Baller said, it would probably take something big for them to let go of someone whose trajectory is just always pointing up. He probably hasn't hit his peak yet. So it's a rock in a hard spot, but it's a good situation because the 49ers, that they're the ones with the keys, so they can play it how they want. And I don't think he's going nowhere. This especially BA and Debo, they're gonna stay together. Hopefully we draft the O-line and we'll see what happens moving forward.
No, well said by everyone. I just got to say what's good to everyone that's in the chat right now. We've got Just a Random Dude. We've got Daniel. We've got Jedi 187 Helmet to Helmet Niners podcast. Appreciate everyone that's tuning in. We will read comments throughout the show. I just wanted to mention, the Niners did sign Debo to the extension, right? And I was just looking over some wide receiver contracts in the NFL, and it's very rare. You might be able to count on one hand the amount of teams that have invested paying two wide receivers top 10 money, whether you look at total money, whether you look at salary per year, guaranteed money. The only team I saw, and chat crew, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Chicago Bears, they traded for Keenan Allen. So that is the one exception. And they also have, I believe, DJ Moore. So those two guys are making like top 10 wide receiver money in one of those three categories I mentioned. And I would be surprised if the Niners do that at least this offseason, because then you will be paying two wide receivers $50 million, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. But I think if the Niners do keep Ayuk this offseason, I think they don't sign him to an extension. And I think Ayuk plays out the last year of his contract. And next offseason, this is the NFL life. It's all about what have you done for me lately. Hey, I mean, let's be real. I mean, Debo had the all-pro season. We needed that type of season from Debo in order to just try to go far in the playoffs. But I don't think he's ever going to have that type of production. And if he's not productive next year, he can be cut post June 1st, and there will be significant cap savings. So maybe just want to throw this out there. If the Niners cut Debo post June 1st next season, then you sign Ayuk. I mean, that's a possibility. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Most teams don't sign two wide receivers top 10 money. Is Brandon Ayuk deserving of that? Absolutely. Absolutely. He hasn't even hit his peak yet, but I would be surprised if the Niners do that. They have other needs, which we've mentioned. Everyone's mentioned the offensive line, but I think the Niners are continuing to tell everyone that they're doubling down on this offensive line. They re-signed Colton McKivitz. I think that was a vote of confidence, and they haven't brought in anyone on the offensive side of the ball. So that's also something I wanted to talk with you guys about later in the show. But we'll definitely get into that.
That's a great point, Jay, about it being difficult to pay two top tier receivers big time money. Because I'm looking at the Chargers. They were one of the teams last year. Mike Williams probably a bit overpaid. Keenan Allen, stud receiver, he was paid adequately, but those were two big contracts. And what did they have to do? They
had to get rid of them.
Both of them. They moved on both of them. You look at the Bengals, I would say they have two superstar receivers, right? Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Well, guess what?
They're not going to pay him
to work out a deal with T. Higgins. They ended up franchise tagging him, but they're giving his agent the option to seek a trade. So it makes a lot of sense. The last thing I wanted to touch on this topic, especially going back to that Jags offer, like pick 17, there's like 3 stud receivers in this draft, right? And I don't think any of them would make it there to 17. So if you did want to trade BA, and you're thinking and you're trying to replicate what you did with DeForest Buckner and kind of draft that position, if you were thinking that, you're not getting Odunze from Washington, you're not getting Malik Neighbors, you're not getting Marvin Harrison Jr. at 17. So even
maybe you could package maybe you could package 17 and 31 to try to move up into the top 10.
I mean, you could. That's ammo, but
yeah. But also, it's like if BA's telling you what he wants, he's not going to take anything less than Calvin Ridley. So if he says we're starting there, and the Niners are like, hell no, then it's a business decision.
But Jay, let's be real though. As much as I don't think you need to have, pay two receivers, I don't know if BA is gonna want to play without a contract this year. We saw it with Nick Bosa holding out last year. We saw it with Debo. You see guys not getting paid, deleting posts off their social media, using all sorts of different tactics. And that's the thing, right? Like, as an athlete, you understand that it's a business. It's purely a business. And who knows, BA could come out next year and, like, obviously I'm not wishing it on BA, but he could get hurt. And then the Niners, might be like, no, we don't want to pay him. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. So BA, because coming off such a great season that he did, right, and coming off one of his most productive seasons, I think BA will want to get paid this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if BA did hold out until he got a contract this year. So as much as I do agree, I would much rather pay him next season and let him play his last year of his contract out. I don't know if BA is willing to do that. I think BA is going to want to get his contract done this year and his extension done this year. And even if it comes down to him potentially holding out from training camp and things like that, I think Brandon Ayuk might even end up doing that because he also understands that it's a business. And we've definitely seen, Nick Bosa do that last year. We've seen Debo Samuel do that, of him, deleting posts on social media and things like that. So we've seen, when the guys want to get paid, they want to get paid. So I think they probably do end up getting it done this year, unless Brandon Ayuk is just like, hey, it's okay, I'll wait another year to get paid, but I doubt that.
I don't think he has much leverage. I mean, we really don't see guys sit out the entire season. I mean, the last guy I remember was Le'Veon Bell. That didn't really work out, and I believe they lose a credited season, so he would be right back in the same situation next season. I think the Niners hold all the leverage. With Bosa, I think it was a little bit different. Bosa we didn't really hear any rumors that he was going to get traded. The Niners were saying, oh, we want Bosa to be here for life. Granted, they're saying the same thing about BA, but BA is doing certain things that Debo did where, hey, I think John even says this, BA's following Jags players on social media. I know it's all a part of the game. It's a business. But I think when you already signed Debo, I mean, you're not going to pay, what you pay Debo to Ayuk. I just don't see it, at least this offseason. I'd be surprised if it happened. Can they shuffle some money around? They probably can. I mean, if you look at the 49ers salary cap right now, I think it's like, depending on what site you look at, it's like 16 or 17 million. So maybe they could do it financially, but I would just be surprised. And I think it's smart that the Niners are doing that due diligence.
I agree with you, Jay, right? Like, I would do it next season, but look at a guy like T. Higgins, for example. T. Higgins didn't get his contract that he wanted. They weren't really doing negotiations, and he demanded a trade. So
even Ayuk hasn't done that yet.
Ayuk hasn't done that yet. So I'm saying is that I'm not saying he's going to sit out a whole entire year, but if he wants that contract this offseason and the Niners don't end up getting it done, Brandon Ayuk, and if you really think about it, Brandon Ayuk, we've said it all season, and that will makes it so like even more impressive that he's like a third option on this team, yet he's still putting up great numbers. If Brandon Ayuk demands a trade and he goes to a team like the Chiefs or a team that's a pass-heavy offense with an elite quarterback, Brandon Ayuk's going to make Pro Bowls, and he's going to, potentially be a Hall of Fame receiver, and he's already putting up great numbers. But imagine him with an elite quarterback or him in a pass-first offense for another team where he's the true wide receiver one and the number one option on a team. I don't know why Brandon Ayuk would be opposed to that either if he doesn't get the bag.
Oh, if I'm Ayuk's camp, I completely agree. Like, as far as the team really doesn't matter. It's you got one shot to get the biggest bag in your life. You're gonna do whatever you have to do to get that done. Doesn't matter what squad's gonna pay you. So I don't blame Ayuk for anything, but we'll see what happens. We still got a long way to go. Kels, did you have anything? I think you were.
Hey, you know what? I kind of look at when I am looking at trades, I'm not necessarily looking at just replacing Ayuk. I'm like doing the pros and cons to everything, like kind of, what's more beneficial right now and later on. Like, for example, like I look at it like, is Fuaga and Worthy or Troy Franklin or whatever receiver you could get at 31. whoever that is. You know, is Fuaga and, for example, Worthy better than, you know, Ayuk and whoever you're going to get at the offensive line position? You know, who's going to be there? You know, a Jordan Morgan or, you know, whoever's going to be there. I know the names are swirling. I don't want to say the one guy, Kings, whatever his name is. My bad.
Kingsley Suman. I'm not a big
Kingsley.
Kingsley guy.
Yeah, but like, so I'm looking at it as like Ayuk and whoever that 31 is, that going to be better right now and in the future compared to you know, Fuaga. And, you know, I get excited, man, on taking big risks. You know, I know it didn't pan out with Buckner. I hated that specific risk, but with this one, it's hard because I love AB. I feel like I'm torn. Like, it would be hard for me, you know, business and who BA is and the money. But I do like the point that you brought up on how next year there is a way to perhaps, you know, probably keep BA, and, you know, we'll see what happens with Debo, and who knows, you know, as far as restructures go and, you know, taking pay cuts and
Right.
hey, Debo, you know, you only showed up for the Eagles game, you know, we love you and everything, but you know, I mean, I know I've talked a lot of times on how he's the spark plug and the heartbeat and all these things, but you know, you cannot get locked down in the Super Bowl if you're getting paid that kind of money. You know, I just
Yeah.
think about Jerry Rice, you know, and he wasn't the fastest. He was what, 4.7 speed, and he was not getting shut down in any Super Bowl or any big, you know, it's like kind of that, you know, type of lenses that I have toward it. So it's a tough position, but we're the ones, you know, with, you know, holding the cards. So we'll see.
Speaking on Debo, am I the only one that doesn't like the number change? Like the number one Debo senior. Like I missed the
Oh,
whole
it's
19
Slim Debo.
problem.
Slim Debo is coming back. He's gonna, you know, the fountain of youth in college, and
Nah,
you know, he's, you know, I
I
don't know.
wasn't
I'm
feeling it. I
trying. I'm
wasn't
trying,
feeling
y'all.
it.
I'm trying,
What I
Debo.
wanted to
Trying.
add, the Debo deal, there's only 2 more years on that deal. Like he's playing this upcoming year, and there's only 1 more year on that contract. After he's got 2 years left. So you know, you could sign. I feel like what's the average, you know, new contract for a wide receiver? Like 4 years. You know, so
Yeah,
you would
3 to
still
4
have
years.
Ayuk for 2 after the Debo contract expires. So that's where, like that Debo, he only got a 3-year extension. You know, we
Yeah,
didn't sign him to no 5-year. Like he's not tied to
right.
us forever. Like
I would also add that if the talks were positive, then I don't think Ayuk would be doing the things he's doing. So, you know, if he had a number and the Niners were like, "Yeah, we'll sign you to that deal," but like the Niners said, they're going to sign him. I believe they said after the free agency period. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but it's definitely something to monitor. But speaking of pay cuts, I don't know how you guys felt about this, and we talked about this in last week's show. But Kelt, I have to know how you feel about this. Eric Armstead, you know, the longest tenured 49er, did not want to follow in the footsteps of I don't know, George Kittle, Hargrave, Juice, Fred Warner. He didn't want to follow in their footsteps and take a pay cut, or at least restructure. I think for Armstead, they wanted him to take a pay cut. And he decided not to do that, but he did want to rekindle going back to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I say going back because Trent Baalke was with the Niners when we drafted Eric Armstead, and now Baalke's with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he's in a sense going home. But uh, you know, is anyone here surprised that Armstead decided to take a pay cut to sign with the Jags? I think it was 3 years, 51 million, but he didn't want to take a pay cut to stay with the Niners. Granted, we don't know what that pay cut would have been to stay with the Niners, but he still didn't make the same amount of money that he was scheduled to make. So, you know, hey, Kelts, what were your thoughts on, you know, Armstead wanting his release, and were you surprised that, you know, he took a pay cut to sign with Jacksonville? And why would he? If you're Armstead, why would you?
I heard conflicting things on it, you know, as far as money wise. I heard one, I guess you call source or whatever. You know, I seen somewhere where someone said 11 or 12 million. Someone else said it was around the same. You factor in the taxes, this, that, and the other. And, you know, Hey, I'm kind of off the hook with my thinking, and my first thought was, Double A, man, he got tired of Kyle's shit. He was like, man, I'm gone. I care a lot. I'm a guy who truly cares. You see what he does with the community and this and that. I don't know if he's ever been a part of the Cabo clique. So I was like, Eric, he was like, hey, I've had enough of this shit. Excuse the language, but now just that being on my funny side, it's a little bittersweet. It's like he's been here, but it's kind of cool to have fresh air, with his injuries, and we're always talking about the, plantar fasciitis, if I said that correctly. Um, yeah, man. So it's bittersweet, and where I've always wanted a bowling ball type of guy. The guy who we did get in there reminds me of DJ Jones with the spin move. So I like that personally. I don't like the tall, lanky. I'm sorry, Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw, but I don't like the taller guys. Hey, batted balls are cool. I want someone who's an anchor. I want a bowling ball. I want that guy who's not going to have leverage issues or knee issues or foot issues, or I want that guy who's tied to the ground. And at the very least, he's going to say, you ain't running this way. I'm Big Daddy right here. And so I like it from a football business standpoint. And, of course, we've all rubbed the tummy before, but hey, it was a great, he'll always be a 49er. Props to Armstead, what he's done throughout his career, what he's done. I think I'm trying to think where he was as far as I seen where he was higher up on numbers for, I can't remember what it was, but props to him. And didn't Trent Baalke draft him? Was that a Trent?
Yeah, that was a Trent Baalke draft pick. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever tried it. So, Trent's like, I drafted him. Hey, he got his guy, man. Hey, he's mine. I knew I'd get him back. Hey, he got his guy back. He's trying to take BA. I think they got a couple of guys over there, in their organization. So it is what it is. I like who we got. I like what we're doing. So
yeah,
I'm juiced up about that.
No, I would agree. The guys we signed in free agency, I think they're younger, they're healthier, they played more games in the last few seasons.
Durable, all of them. That's the major thing that stood out. I'm immediately looking at how many games have they played, how many seasons. That's the number one. And every single guy, just like very durable, man. So yeah, that's a key, man. We've always had issues.
How do you feel, Eek?
I mean, Eric Armstead, we're going to miss him. He's a better run defender than he is pass. He was the contract was bad from the jump, fellas. Like he cashed in on that 2019 season. He had a career year. Like, let's not forget Eric Armstead, his first couple years with the Niners, he was constantly banged up.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, but like the first 2 years, he was constantly injured. Then he had a healthy stretch. He earned the big contract, and then, he was a guy, he had a big year his free agent year, and the Niners rewarded him. But after that, he was overpaid. I mean, let's be real. He's a good player, but he was overpaid. He ain't worth $25 million a year. He ain't. So,
hell nah.
Armstead, thank you for your service. I appreciate you. You were a great Niner. But hey, I wish you all the best of luck.
Peace.
Well said. What about you, Amin the Dream?
I mean, I respect Armstead for what he did, obviously on the field for the 49ers, a captain, and also what he did off the field, right? Walter Payton Man of the Year, nominee multiple years in a row. So, I mean, what he's done for the community and for the Bay, I respect. But like Baller said, the contract wasn't great from the beginning. He was getting, 20-something million a year, wasn't great. Always missed time. The production also wasn't the greatest. And I think the Niners probably made a really good decision by getting rid of Armstead, as much as he was the longest, tenured player on the 49ers. Because look at the replacements, right? Look at the replacements for Malik Collins. They obviously got Splash Cousin and Jordan Elliott. I mean, those two replacements are guys that are healthy, they're durable. And the production compared to Armstead is also really similar, right? So the production is also similar. They're guys that stay healthy, they're durable. Armstead, the last couple of seasons hasn't been able to stay healthy, hasn't replicated, obviously that 2019 success, nothing close to it. And then he has flashes, right? There are times like the 2021 playoff stretch and things like that where Armstead does shine, but the level of consistency is not really there from Armstead. And what you're paying Armstead, he definitely didn't live up to the contract. Plus, he couldn't stay healthy. So, I mean, obviously, he's been here for a while, but I think it was probably the best decision. And if you think about it, Armstead wanting to go to the Jaguars, he goes to a GM that drafted him in Trent Baalke, and those are 3 years where you're most likely on that team for 3 years, if not at least 2, where with the Niners, you're getting already asked to take a pay cut going into next offseason. I don't know exactly what the contract looks like if Armstead was on this team, but the Niners could potentially ask him to take another pay cut, or maybe even end up getting rid of Armstead and being like, you know what, Armstead, you've been here for a while and we end up releasing you. So I feel like Armstead kind of knew in a way that his time on the Niners was coming to an end a little bit, and the Niners were, trying to make some moves, and his time on the Niners was coming to an end. So if you're Eric Armstead going to a team where your GM drafted you, and going to a team where you're at least guaranteed, hopefully, Eric Armstead, if you're healthy, 2 years, on the Jaguars, plus you don't have state tax in Jacksonville. Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that Eric Armstead wanted to leave. I felt like Eric Armstead kind of knew in a way that his time on the Niners was coming to an end slowly.
No, absolutely. And honestly, I don't think the Niners would have asked him to take a pay cut if he was if he played more games. I mean, this past season he played 12. The previous year he played 9. I think if he would have played a majority of the games, maybe they just would have maybe restructured his contract, maybe not ask him as much of a pay cut. I think we all know that 2019 10 sack season was an outlier. That's not who Armstead is. He's great at run stuffing. He's smart. And it just sucks for the longest tenure 49er to go in this type of fashion. But no doubt, respect him for his work off the field. And as E said, he will be missed for sure. So, as Sugar Not says, enjoy Duval. And like you said, I mean, no state income tax, and also he's going to be in a different scheme. The Jags run a 3-4, so Armstead's going to be lined up in front of the center. So maybe that's another reason why he wanted to change his scheme. Or
I think Armstead could play. He could play DN too.
He could.
He's got some versatility to him.
No, absolutely, and that's another reason why the Jags wanted him. There was another article on Niners Nation. It was talking about Talanoa Hufanga, and the Niners. There were rumors that the Niners were interested in adding, a safety to the mix. And I was just wondering, what are you guys' thoughts on that? Do you think it's not? Do you think it's right, because it's business, and a business is business? But I was surprised that the 49ers weren't guaranteeing Huff a starting spot. Now, obviously, until we make an acquisition like a Justin Simmons or a player of that caliber, Huff's spot is secure. But I was surprised. Maybe it's Brandon Staley having an influence on this defense. Maybe he wants to implement some of his schemes into the defense, and maybe that wouldn't benefit Huff. The reason why I mentioned that is because we do play a heavy dosage of that cover 3, cover 4, and Hufanga is a good fit. But Brandon Staley has somewhat different principles. He likes a too high coverage look, and Talanoa Hufanga, hey, he's a great player. That might not be his strong suit. I think we could fairly say that him in coverage isn't really his strong suit. He's best at the line of scrimmage, attacking the quarterback, attacking the ball carrier. So I was just curious, were you guys surprised by that? Did you hear about that the Niners were interested in possibly bringing in, a top flight safety? Let's start off with E. What you got, man?
Hey, I'm always looking to get better. Okay.
Right.
While I do like Hufanga, I do like Jair Brown. I mean, there's levels to it. So yeah, Justin Simmons, it would be an upgrade. If they decided to take a safety early, first, second round, then, obviously they think the guy can start, in my opinion. That being said, I was excited about a Jair Brown Talanoa Hufanga pairing. Obviously we got to see how the ACL rehabs, but I like what Hufanga does out there. He's good against the run. I love how he times up the snap. He's got, I know he trains with Paul Malu and that's his guy, but in terms of kind of his instincts at the line of scrimmage and timing up snaps and ability to get into the backfield. Like, I really like Hufanga. I was a bit surprised by this report. I mean, looking at the depth chart right now, it's Jair Brown, Talanoa Hufanga, George Odom, who's really more of a special teamer, Eric Harris, who's more of a special teamer. So it absolutely would take a move, and it might only be Justin Simmons coming in that could push Hufanga to the bench. And even that, it's like, well, Hufanga and Jair Brown, like who's more polished, who's more tenured, in their NFL career thus far.
True.
So I was a bit surprised. I like Hufanga. I like Jair Brown. I think that's going to be our starting safety tandem. But hey, like I said, I'm always looking to get better. So if you can have Justin Simmons, well then, hey, that means Brown and Hufanga are competing for one spot.
Shoot, I'm taking if I'm getting to Justin Simmons, especially with injuries, you never know how. Man, I'm turning freaking Hufanga into a Swiss Army knife. I'm using him as my gadget guy on defense. I'll take that too. Flip it around into a 5. I'll throw that man in the Dre Greenlaw spot from in nickel packages. Let's throw him in the slot on certain have a whole package for him. I know it sounds, kind of off the hook or whatever, but if I'm having those kind of caliber players and we're kind of slipping in certain other areas, I could see Hufanga doing better than a Oliver or, Oren Burks
Logan
or,
Ryan.
put 10 more pounds of muscle in, and I could see Hufanga with how he already plays on the line of scrimmage. I could see him as a freaking versatile linebacker, hybrid linebacker safety, kind of because you can't teach instincts. When you're a ball hawk and you got instincts, and that's where he makes up, kind of like Brock Purdy, kind of like a few other players on the Niners, where they make up in other areas when they're not the fastest guy or things like that. So, hey, bring it on. If we could get a Simmons or whoever else, I know this 49er team will find a way to utilize all the talent that they do got. So. But I didn't put too much mind into it when I seen it. I kind of chuckled and kept scrolling and, just. But hey, you never know, and you never know how someone's recovering. You never know what they might know behind the scenes. Not everybody just comes right back and they're better. Some guys, come back and they're different. Or the worst case scenario, you come back and you can't come back. But yeah, I didn't take much about the Huff thing, but anything can happen in this league.
And like Case 49 says in the chat, Huff was playing on an injured knee before the ACL tear. Like that happened in training camp, right? Where it was
the Baker cyst.
Yeah, he was dealing with that. So, there's some additional kind of stuff going on in addition to the ACL tear.
Yeah, let me finish a sentence. Huff not guaranteed starting spot if the 49ers go out and sign Justin Simmons. If the 49ers don't go out and sign Justin Simmons, then this rumor doesn't mean anything. Like, right, if you do end up signing Justin Simmons, I wouldn't mind at all because it's an upgrade, right? That's an upgrade, whether that might be over Talanoa Hufanga coming off a torn ACL or a second-year player in Jair Brown. This is a huge upgrade if you get Justin Simmons. But if you don't, I don't really care because I'm cool with Talanoa Hufanga. I know what he can do. I trust his instincts. And Jair Brown, he didn't have a bad rookie year. He showed some flashes. Obviously, he had the interception in the Super Bowl, had multiple interceptions last year. So if you do end up going out and signing a Justin Simmons, I would love it. But if you end up, not signing a Justin Simmons, or if he's too expensive and he gets, more money somewhere else, and you roll into training camp with Talanoa Hufanga and Jair Brown, I'm cool with it, right? Like I'm cool with it. But until something happens, I don't really care about the rumor. I don't really care about the report because unless you go out and get Justin Simmons, I don't think there's another safety that I would prefer over Talanoa Hufanga or Jair Brown. Because I don't know who else is out on the market, but if it's not Justin Simmons, I don't think they deserve to start over Talanoa Fung or Jair Brown. I don't think they will start over those two guys, and I don't even think the Niners will end up going and signing someone else at that position if it isn't for Justin Simmons. So if it is Justin Simmons, then maybe we could, start having these conversations. But until something happens or until that does happen, Talanoa Fung is a starter.
I would say what one thing that would make me really question that if their big splash was like at the safety position, like what the hell happened with the offensive line? Like, it would make me like what's that?
I'm gonna be real though. Looking at this Niners free agency so far, it doesn't look like the Niners are really addressing that offensive line. Maybe in the draft, but besides that, like even today, Kevin Zeitler, first Pro Bowler from the Ravens, got a 1-year contract from the Lions. You look at the Rams signing Jonah Jackson, signing offensive linemen. The Niners haven't been really making that many moves. And it's not like, and I'm not saying I don't know what Kevin Zeitler's contract is. I don't think they released it, but I know it's a 1-year deal. But Trent Brown also is, he's having meetings with Cincinnati later this week. There's been multiple offensive linemen that have been available for the 49ers. And Kevin Zeitler on a 1-year deal, I don't know what the numbers are, but he plays guard. He's coming off a Pro Bowl season. If the Niners really wanted to...
We got Brandon Parker.
Yeah, like...
Hey, and I pulled out a major stat.
Future tackle.
I pulled out a major... Did you know... I've been trying to reach a little bit in the bag, but it was like, I think he's our third highest drafted offensive lineman on the team for whatever that's worth. And I know you could be drafted, in the first round and be a complete bust, but it's just facts. Like but that also tells me we need to invest better in our offensive line. If he's our third highest drafted offensive lineman in round 3, that just shows we got 1 first rounder, 1 second rounder, and now Parker, a 3rd rounder, and the rest of the guys are 4th and 5th and 6th. And, hey, you're going to get what you pay for. And I'm just frustrated about seeing seasons ending with quarterback injuries, lack of protection, scheme in the protection, and on and on and on. You guys know the deal. Almost every season ends in the same way. And so it's cool right now that McKivitz did good enough. It's cool that the stats looked at wherever they were, but when it comes to the end, for the love of God, it better not happen again.
But that's the thing. I think. Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think Shanahan is telling everyone how he feels. Wilkes was the reason we lost the Super Bowl, and we have to revamp. We have to revamp this defense. That's what Kyle Shanahan said. We signed 2 quarterbacks. We haven't addressed the offensive line. We don't have a backup tight end. I mean, it's all defense. Like,
no Braden Willis slander when I'm around. All right, no Braden Willis slander.
Hey, we need a vet behind Kittle. He's getting longer in the tooth. I mean, I think we said it. I think you're joking, but I think you said it that you wouldn't want Braden Willis as your number 2 behind Kittle. Like, we bring in a vet, another vet.
Ross Dwelly.
So wait, hold on. So Latu gets an injury and he's just gone. He's just garbage now, right? Just 1 season, 1 injury. Latu, he wasn't catching balls in practice.
Well, he hasn't proven it. We haven't seen it. So can we rely on someone if we haven't seen it? He's going to get every opportunity.
How much has Ross Dwelly shown us? How much has Warner shown us? How much? It's almost like Juszczyk is really the wink tight end too. Even though people are like, "Oh, look how much Juszczyk weighs." He's kind of like the auxiliary, tight end number 2, kind of built in, and that's why he was probably getting. That's just the way I always viewed it. He catches passes here and there, kind of like a tight end 2 would, making certain blocks, just running to the left, running to the right, motion over here, shift over there. But you never know though. We truly never know, man, until I know y'all hate to hear it, but I still want to see something with Gray. Who cares if he has a false start here or there? Like, the genius cannot put together a package of 3 or 4 freaking plays. You can't do 1 end around. You can't do 1 jet sweep. And I know
he's got to earn those snaps. He's got to block, man.
Yeah,
he ain't blocking. He ain't getting no snaps.
I know.
Kels, don't question Kyle Shanahan, Kels.
He's still tripping. He's still tripping on that cafeteria food. He's still worried about the cafeteria food. The field was muddy. The trash wasn't taken out on time. No, I'm kidding. Hey, it is what it is. It is what it is, man. But but hopefully someone emerges because Kittle ain't gonna be young forever, man. So hopefully we already got the guy. But if not, yeah, we'll see.
They're going to bring in another tight end. I mean, they're probably going to have at least 5 tight ends in camp. So one of them's got to be another vet, you would figure. And they'll probably draft another tight end as well, which I think they should. Did anyone else have anything else
third round,
to add about him?
I just hope it's not in the third round because I don't know. Like the Cameron Ladu pick, like really, like you drafted Braden Willis in like the 6th, and then you could have I love DeJuan Jones, offensive tackle out of Ohio State. He was dropping in that 3rd round, and the Niners could have really used a guy like DeJuan Jones.
Shanahan continues to tell everyone the offensive line is not the problem.
I know, but that's the thing, though. Jay, but that's a problem, though, right? Because you look at the rest of the league, they're improving their offensive line. Not to mention, I literally remember having this discussion with my uncle yesterday. Me and my uncle were sitting down because my uncle's a huge Niners fan. We were sitting down having this conversation, and we were like, do you think it's time for Kyle Shanahan to go? And we were like, obviously, maybe give him another year. But if he doesn't get it done next year, do you think he should go? And just like everybody else makes the argument. But what if you get rid of Kyle Shanahan? Do y'all not remember what happened before Kyle Shanahan? We had Chip Kelly, Jim Harbaugh. We had all, Mike Nolan. We had Mike Singletary. We had all sorts of coaches. Like, the one thing I do know about Kyle is that Kyle Shanahan obviously has his ego, but he doesn't learn from his mistakes. So it's going out and doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome, or going and making a change, which I'm not saying that, you making that change will lead to success, but if you don't make the change, you don't know whether you'll be successful or not. Whereas I already know what I do have in Kyle Shanahan. It's a guy who thinks he's the smartest guy in the world and that he's never wrong in any circumstance.
Yeah. The guy though who cuts his checks, he's won him over. That's exactly why he shouldn't have re-signed him to a contract extension. He should have held his feet to the fire, but he didn't. He said, "Hey, Shanahan, you're doing a hell of a job. We're relevant now. The seats are sold out at Levi's. I don't look like an idiot anymore when I fired Harbaugh." Like he's happy.
That's the difference.
He just happy just being relevant.
That's the
Sorry, faithful, but the Super Bowl would be icing on the cake. That's just
pretty much.
Yeah. That's how I see it. And I guess you could say that for any team, you know what I'm saying? And so many teams would trade places, but I think it hits a little bit harder with Amin, who's never seen a Super Bowl win, and with the older generation that used to hold on to that 5-0 legacy. It's kind of getting watered down along with the rest of the world in almost every other category, man. It's unfortunate, but what's up?
I'm a Lakers fan, but I respect Joe Lacob because Joe Lacob goes out there and he wants to win at all costs. He doesn't care. Obviously, it helps when you have a good team to fill the seats, but he wants to go out there and win, right? So he's trying to make the moves and put his team in the best position. When you look at the championships, going out and getting KD, DeMarcus Cousins, whatnot, but Joe Lacob wants to win. Whereas I feel like with Jed, it's like you win the Super Bowl, you have the team to win it, and if you win it, cool. But if you don't, obviously, like you guys said, you sell out the seats. I think the Niners, I heard a report that the Niners for that Super Bowl week, they made $25 million in merchandise sales, right? So I feel like Jed, on the other hand, is all right, winning the Super Bowl would be great. That would be a great outcome. It would be cool. But if we don't also, we still have a team, or, a product that we put out on the field that people will pay money for, that the fans will come out and watch, and, that you'll still fill the seats, you'll still make enough money throughout the season, whereas I think Eddie would go out and he would want to win the Super Bowl, so he would make that trade for Deion Sanders if you didn't win the Super Bowl. Obviously, it's completely 2 different eras because that was the pre-cap era, but I still like a guy like Lacob who wants to go out there and win. Whereas I feel like with Jed, winning is cool. If you do win, that's great, but winning is an option.
Yeah, Jed is just happy that he can count his money. That's as long as the team makes money. I think that's what he cares about. If he didn't care about that, if he really was about winning Super Bowls, you never would have re-upped Shanahan. You didn't have to.
If you listen to the language from 2017 and every other year, if you really just pay attention to the details and listen, even to the body language and the mannerisms and the words, how you say it and what you say, they have never been super confident or really ever talk too much about Super Bowl. When Joe, that's John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, you hear things like promises or restoring legacy, but when it comes to Super Bowl talk, it's kind of timid. You hear the players say, but Joe Lacob, he came and said by year 3, we are winning the finals. Like this is what we are doing.
Yeah.
And year
He
3
also has
came
Steph
and
Curry.
and they won that championship. But it's he had to, it starts with the belief, man. It starts with owning it. You got to, some people talk about it. For example, back in the day, it was Tupac. He would talk about it and do it, and then Biggie, he was a little more reserved. He would do it and then talk about it. Everybody has their different flavor on how they go about business, but Joe Lacob did come in bold and he said it with confidence and he meant it with his heart. We're going to win a chance. The 49ers have always been very timid when it came to that kind of talk, but they're very loud when it comes to making you proud or restoring or, all the other things beside that, and we all know how Eddie D was. Eddie D was like, oh no, shit. Hold on, George Seifert, you almost got there. Goodbye. So it's a different time. Free agent. I know all that stuff, but I like how you brought that up, Amin, because it matters. If you really, really, really want something like that, eventually, if you have the right people and you put the right amount of effort and dedication and heart into it, you're going to get it, and hopefully that's the next chapter. Hopefully it's like, all right, hey, we've done well for these 7 years. We're big balling, now, we're over here chilling with big baller, we're balling out of control. Hey, now let's go get a couple goals. Hey, man, Jay had to lace me up in the beginning of this thing when I first started, a couple years ago. I didn't know about a lot of the stuff behind the scenes. I was still naive and kind of, oh, they have to care. They care, right? I care about it. Oh, shit, it is a business. All right, okay, well, F you too, Kyle. Like, well, damn.
Hey, real quick, I wanted to say, since the 49ers defense, we all agree that they were the problem in the Super Bowl. It didn't matter that Wilkes had an excellent game plan the first half.
6 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
they held him to 6 all the way for it seemed like forever.
That wasn't good enough. That wasn't good enough. Not at all. No, he should have held him to 0.
All them free rushers.
That's what the 49ers are trying to tell us, or at least that's what Shanahan wants to tell us. So with the additions that we made in free agency, Malik Collins, Jordan Elliott, Gross Matos, Leonard Floyd, Devondre Campbell. I know I'm forgetting some names. You guys know the names, though. Just Google it. Is the 49ers defense a better unit now or Super Bowl Sunday, this past Super Bowl Sunday? Which defense is better? Let me go first. I would say this defense is better now, even though we haven't seen it. I think Leonard Floyd is an obvious upgrade, over obviously Drake Jackson, over Chase Young. And congrats to Chase Young. He signed with the Saints on a 1-year deal. Leonard Floyd has been super consistent over the last 4 years. I think he's got like 9 sacks each of the last 4 years. He's a vet. I like the 2 defensive tackles that we added, Elliott and what's his name? Collins, the 2 defensive tackles. That was one of the major weaknesses on this defense was the interior of the defense. Armstead was good in the run fits, but he wasn't healthy enough to stay on the field. So I like that you're going with a more than one guy approach. You want multiple guys, and I'm sure we'll draft another defensive tackle as well. Matos, don't know much about him. I know I think it was a 2nd or 3rd round pick by Carolina. We'll see what he does, but he's definitely got exceptional stature. We'll see. He hasn't really been able to put all that together, though. I think he's like 6'5", 260. So we'll see what happens with that. Dre Greenlaw, he's probably going to be out most of the year. So you bring in Devondre Campbell. I know he was really productive with the Packers. I think he got better on the interior of the defensive line. Obviously, we're gonna miss Greenlaw, I think. But I would take this defense now with the additions that we made because I think we needed more depth in certain areas. But I would say this defense will be better, and we'll see what happens when the games start. But Amin the Dream, what do you say, man? The 49ers defense was better on Super Bowl Sunday, or with the additions that we made today, or this free agency period? In chat, feel free to let us know how you feel as well.
I think this 2024 defense has the potential to be better than, last year's defense. But just looking at it right now, no, Super Bowl Sunday's defense was better. And I mean, obviously it did struggle in the playoffs, but you look at what Steve Wilkes was able to do and how he was able to limit Mahomes throughout that entire Super Bowl for the most part, except for, late in the game when Mahomes got going. But to allow, 6 points throughout the entire first half to Mahomes and that Chiefs offense, I mean, no, that defense was definitely better in Super Bowl Sunday. Obviously Chase Young, they weren't going to bring him back, especially with what the Saints offered him. I think it was like $13 million fully guaranteed. But I mean, you look at Chase Young on the opposite side of Nick Bosa. You look at Eric Armstead. You look at Javon Hargrave. Obviously that Niners team was full of talent. Dre Greenlaw not coming off an injury. Not pre Achilles injury. You look at Talanoa Hufanga. No, Talanoa Hufanga wasn't there, but I mean, overall that defense was better. This year's defense probably has more depth in terms of, obviously the signings that we made. And a guy like Leonard Floyd could be, better than Chase Young and more consistent than Chase Young has been this year. But, the last year's defense, I would say, in terms of the pure talent that last year's defense had, I would say last year's was better. But I think this Niners defense, in terms of the players that the Niners have added to this defense, I think definitely has the potential to be better than last year's.
What say you, Bay Area baller?
On paper, last year's defense looks better, right? But the game isn't played on paper. And I say that because Chase Young, Eric Armstead, like those are big names. When you mention those names, you're thinking big time player. But looking at the moves we've made this year, Leonard Floyd, I think he's going to give you more than what Chase Young and even Randy Gregory brought to the table last year. I love the moves when we made them. I loved Gregory when we got him from the Broncos. I was excited about Chase Young, but got to be honest, I wanted more from those guys. So I'm hoping Leonard Floyd is going to bring that pass rush opposite Bosa that we've been coveting, right? And Devondre Campbell, I think Campbell's a really darn good player. Like, it was only a couple years ago, like he had 146 tackles. Like, he's pretty good in pass coverage. I know he's missed a few games last year, but I think Campbell is a darn good replacement for Dre Greenlaw. Like, when we signed Campbell, I'm thinking, all right, that's a good move. I'm feeling good, playing next to Fred Warner. So on paper, no, the Super Bowl squad is better, but game ain't played on paper. I think this upcoming season, this defensive roster has the potential to be even better.
Yeah, I think this defense is going to be a lot better. And I know we were one of the, arguably one of the best last year, but there were times where we were getting carved up, whether that was the pass rush not getting home or guys like Oliver. I think we're going to be a lot better. And I think the guy from the Saints, I don't want to mess his name up, but I think that's massive. I think that's a massive him compared to Oliver, massive in my opinion. When you do single out, how you say it?
I mean, I'm saying Yiadom, but I don't know for sure. But yeah,
Yiadom, that works for me. Hey, I haven't watched no YouTube shows. Now I've been completely, I get my information, on who we get, but that's about it. I've been, a lot of stuff with the fam, but so I haven't even heard the name be said yet. Yiadom?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Yiadom. We got Yiadom in the house. That compared to Oliver, just that one move, because y'all know me. The two areas you can expose the most, I believe, is quarterback and cornerback. When you got a cornerback on the island, the defensive coordinator, that's just the place where the most one-on-one is going to happen. So I think that's massive. I love the defensive. I like how we switched it up, how it feels like we would always get the same guy opposite Bosa. You look at a Farrell, you look at a Drake Jackson, you look at a Randy Gregory, they're all essentially the same player. We went and switched it up, and we went and got the fast guy. which is also, availability is probably the best thing to have. We got all these guys who are durable. We're not dealing with effort issues. We got another dog in Floyd, and then we got the big end. Then we got, like Jay in the Bay was talking about, we got the 6'5", 265. We got the big end, the edge setter with the Matos. I've watched a little bit on him. So I like how we got the speed guy. Hey, pin your ears back, go get the QB. And then we got the big end, on, packages. And then we got the two bowling balls to come. We got rid of the length. It feels like we've always liked that. But with Kinlaw and Armstead, and we got the two guys who are a little more anchored down in there. And they ain't just, big daddies clogging up space. They got moves, especially, I believe it's Elliott. Shout out to the other Jordan Elliott. That's pretty cool. To the splash cousin. But yeah, man, I like what we've done so far, and like Jay has always been saying, Shanahan showing that it was obviously the defense's fault. But I just look at it, they're looking at, hey, and it's hella funny because it does feel that way on the surface looking at it. But hey, man, if you could get another extra possession or two, it's going to help our offense. It all works together. But it's like I just keep wanting to talk about the offensive line, but I think this defense, I think they're going to be a lot better. So I don't think we're going to see a Kirk Cousins and, Joe Burrow dicing us up the way that they did. You know what I'm saying? I know they're going to get theirs. They're going to eat, but it feels like they were just kind of at will. Just there were a few games where it was like, man, we can't. Oh, dang, now we're not stopping the run, and just so I feel like it's going to be a lot better.
And how would y'all feel about adding Tre'Davious White to this team? I know y'all probably saw the Charvarius Ward and him saying we got the same agent. Jay, what's that little, like on a 1 year?
He's coming off of a torn ACL.
I know, but like on a 1 year deal, like on a cheap 1 year deal, if you can get him on a cheap 1 year deal, maybe play him in the slot, have, Lenore move to the outside. Like, I mean, it doesn't hurt on a 1 year.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt. But you're not a believer in Ambry Thomas? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not a believer in Ambry Thomas.
Look at the last.
Bruh,
two seasons. He only played 10 games.
We got Yeadom.
While
we were gone, we've been talking about Yeadom.
We got Yeadom.
I saw that signing as well. But speaking of Trey White, he's only played 10 games the last 2 years. So it's like it wasn't like a 1 year fluke. But if it's a 1 year vet man, it wouldn't hurt. But I think he may get more on the open market, maybe more.
Jay, so. who do you think is better, Yeadom or Thomas?
Well, I got to be honest. I haven't seen Yeadom play, so I can't really. I mean, Ambry Thomas has had some big moments wearing the red and gold. I mean, so quickly we forget that, man. I mean, he's had some big moments. He's also been hurt.
Are you talking about like the pass interferences on third downs and the holding calls? Like, it feels like
you bringing up stuff, man? Come on, man.
Every important third down is like a holding on Ambry Thomas, and you already know who's getting the penalty.
Well, I mean, he's had some bad moments. Absolutely, he's had some good moments as well. But I mean, he's still in the red and gold. He's still going to have to earn his spot on this roster. That's for sure, and that's how it should be every year.
I watched a 2-minute highlight reel on Yeadom, and I'll tell you, Yeadom's better than Ambry.
Whoa,
my 2-minute highlight reel.
Whoa.
That convinced you. But YouTube 2-minute highlight reel.
He's got to go up against Cup, Puka, DK. I don't know who's the Cardinals receiver. I don't even know, but he's got to go up against those guys in NFC West. Let's see how he does. But I'm all for bringing in more talent, just as long as you don't bring in injury-prone guys. It's like, what are we doing? But
we brought back Verrett. Look at that. Like, we brought back Verrett year after year after year. I felt like
Verrett. You said Verrett?
Yeah, we brought back Verrett. I'm not saying bring him back now, but I'm saying we brought him back multiple times. Like Tre'Davious White, a guy coming off, I don't know how many injuries he's had in the past, but 1 year, vet min, like he's definitely better than Ambry. I'll put it like that. I would much rather see what he could do even coming off post injury than Ambry.
Ambry's healthy, so that's huge, But
I know what Ambry is, Jay. I know what Ambry is. Whereas like with Tre'Davious White, now he could, suck and not be, Pro Bowl Tre'Davious White. But if you get Pro Bowl Tre'Davious White on a 1 year deal, think about how much better your defense could be, and you move Lenore to the outside. Lenore's a Pro Bowler. Charvarius Ward playing in the second half of the year like he did, Pro Bowler. right? And he made first, I think second team All Pro, right? But if you can get at least 80% of Pro Bowl Tre'Davious White on that Niners defense, that would be huge.
The talent is there, but the injury history is there as well. So you have to look at both things. Like you said, 1 year vet men, why not? But I just wouldn't be expecting that much. I wouldn't be expecting him to stay healthy. As far as Verrett, I mean, we know what that was. I mean, it's a 1 year vet men come in, not really expecting a whole lot. Like, but how do you guys feel? Trey White in the Niners uniform, who says no?
Yeah, I don't know what Amin was saying about the minimum and all that, but I mean, if I'm gonna do, I don't know, man. If I'm gonna do something like that, it's like you might as well go big and see what's up with Surtain or something like that. It's like but
that was the question I was going to ask you guys. Would you rather get the top flight safety or bring in Pat Surtain, to match up with Ward and Lenore? Like,
I would definitely go corner before safety.
Yeah, I would go corner. What about you, Amin? You going? Yep. Okay. So
I'm going corner. Safety is a luxury. You get Justin Simmons, that's a luxury on your team. Whereas, like, you need the cornerback position. You get a Trey White or a Patrick Surtain. That's a huge upgrade for you. Whereas if you get, a Justin Simmons, it's obviously an upgrade, but that's also a luxury. Where if you didn't get a Justin Simmons and you rolled out with the other two guys, I would be perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, damn, man. All this Ambry Thomas slander in the chat is crazy. Hey, I still feel like he won't be guaranteed a spot on the squad. He'll have to earn it in training camp. That's how it should be. But hey, we'll see what happens. You guys had anything else on the Niners defense, or should we move on to the next topic? I know Baller, you got to leave in a few.
Did you say, Jay, whether that got better or what? Or
I think they got better. I mean, Greenlaw is going to miss a chunk of the season. That's going to hurt for sure. But the main weakness was, stopping the run. And with the guys we signed, I think that should definitely help. I mean, I know we lost Kinlaw. I mean, that was a huge loss. Kinlaw had a hell of a year. He parlayed that into a 1 year deal with the Jets. Hey, more power to him. But yeah, I think we'll be more well-rounded.
Hey, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Before Baller has to potentially head on out of here, the people want to know how does Barry Baller feel about the Josh Dobbs signing, which implicates that Zach Wilson might not be a 49er. The people want to know. That's what the people are here for. That's why people have been listening, but they want to know this question in particular. That's why they've been tuning in. That's why they've been watching for the last hour. So, Baller, hit us, Baller.
I am a Zach Wilson stan, and I'm not going to lie. When I saw those rumors yesterday, I was getting a tad bit excited, but I'm a realist, and my expectations of Zach Wilson have dropped a bit, since he declared for the NFL draft. So the Josh Dobbs signing today, I'm pretty happy about it. I think Dobbs is a solid number 2. In the numbers that I saw come across, like, he's only making $2.5 million. And Dobbs, we know he's well traveled, right? He didn't stick around in the same place last year. I think he started with Cleveland, like in training camp. Then he got traded to Arizona. Actually, I saw him start. He started at Levi Stadium. I was at that game. I thought he was decent. And, we saw him play. Then the midseason trade to the Vikings after Kirk Cousins went down. What I'll say is now Josh Dobbs, he has a team, right? He has a home. He's going to be able to absorb the playbook. He's going to have a training camp with the team. I think all that stuff matters. He's going to get to know his receiving core a little bit before, like, he goes to Minnesota and he's starting. He doesn't even know the receivers' last names, So I think Dobbs is a solid backup. I like the move. Would I, have gotten more butterflies from a Zach Wilson signing? Yes. But my head says this is actually a better move. Bringing in the veteran Josh Dobbs. If Purdy were to go down, for a couple weeks or a month, like, I feel like Dobbs can get it done, kind of keep the team afloat, maybe win half the games. Like, think Dobbs is solid. Luckily, he's got some games played under his belt, right? He saw some action last year. So this is someone who's been on the field. Whereas, Brandon Allen, I know he was with the Bengals. He played a little bit when Burrow was banged up. But Josh Dobbs, we've seen him play recently. I thought he was solid. He brings a mobility factor. I like my backup quarterbacks to have some mobility because I feel like it kind of raises the floor, whereas if you have a pocket passer who's not really very good, as your backup, then you might be in some trouble. So I like the fact that Dobbs brings the mobility aspect to his game. He can create outside the pocket. The second-hand plays should become available. So I was happy with the Dobbs signing. Maybe not as excited as I would have been for some Zach Wilson, but I like the Dobbs.
Hey, and go ahead, Kels.
Hey, so if Kyle Shanahan, thought that Sam Darnold could be the next Steve Young, I mean, I'm just curious to see what he's got cooking up and what he's going to say about Josh Dobbs. I was real curious to see what he might say about Zach Wilson, because, I mean, Dobbs does seem like he, is better than probably both, who knows? You could probably lump all those guys in, close to around the same range of, talent and the best thrower of the footballs and things like that. But no, I really like Dobbs, man. From what I seen from him last year, he seems like a good team dude, and he just wants an opportunity, and hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully we never got to see him, just like Sam Darnold last year. Hopefully if he does come in, it's to nail the ball down, and that's about it. But I feel like last year was a rare situation where we got to see, 17 games out of one quarterback, and we almost did see Brock Purdy miss a game or two when he got a concussion in Minnesota. So I feel like that was a rare situation, just him being healthy all year. I wouldn't feel that way if we did have a lot more investment into the offensive line. I did some research today. I won't elaborate too much, but from how we draft, if I looked at all the starters on our offensive line and where each guy is drafted, I basically made a thing where I totaled up a number, and we would be dead last, tied with a few other teams on investment if you looked at it in that kind of way, not just money wise, just draft wise. And a lot of the teams who are toward the top, it's no wonder why they're doing good. But yeah, man, it's I keep coming back to the offensive line almost every topic, man. It's just I just hope it doesn't end that way again, and it's still a little bitterness with me. It's going to be all the way up until I see there at least be an emphasis on the system when it comes to protection, and good signing with Dobbs. I like it. I hella like it to the fullest as our QB2. So.
Kels.
Hey, fellas, I'm going to let you guys take it home. I'm going to take off, but I'm going to talk to y'all soon, all right?
I'll let you later, E. All right.
Kels, just how Baller was bitter when they signed Josh Dobbs because they couldn't have Zach Wilson. Just how you might be a little bit bitter if the 49ers don't address the offensive line position, which I don't think they might as much as we would like, which kind of sucks. But in terms of Josh Dobbs, I love the signing because, number one, obviously $2.5 million, I think it was, or $2.25 million.
Yeah.
That's quarterback 2 money, not what you paid Sam Darnold last year with incentives and things like that. I think it was like $7 million or $10 million, $7 to $10 million. That's not quarterback 2 money. So I love the contract in terms of what he's getting paid, and then $700,000 in incentives based on playing time, which I think is cool with me if he does end up having to play. But I like the money. I like it in terms of financials. I like Josh Dobbs in terms of quarterback 2. I like him better than Darnold. I liked him better than Zach Wilson. I think the only person, honestly, that would want Zach Wilson on this team more than Josh Dobbs is probably Barry Baller. Otherwise, I think most Niners fans, we disagree on a lot of things, but I think on one thing that pretty much majority of the Niners fans probably do agree on is wanting Josh Dobbs and preferring Josh Dobbs over Zach Wilson. He's also been in the league for a while, was on the Steelers, couple of years ago, and he's bounced around multiple teams, but in a way that also can help Brock Purdy because he's a veteran in a way. Josh Dobbs is a veteran. As much as he hasn't gotten that much playing time, he's a guy in a way that can share some of his experiences in a way to Brock Purdy, who's in his second year, right? Second year, yeah. Or like second year, full year starting. So Josh Dobbs has been in the league for a while. So you have a guy that's been in the league that can share some of his experiences, that can help Brock Purdy a little bit, that can mentor him in a way. He's also a little bit mobile, which I like, and he had that 2 week stretch in the regular season where people were calling him the Pastronaut, and he had that 2 week Linsanity run in a way where he played really good football for like 2 or 3 weeks. But I definitely love the signing for a quarterback too. I think it's great, and he's also a guy that the locker room doesn't mind rallying around. He was Jawan Jennings' quarterback in college, so obviously Jawan Jennings has that familiarity, but he seems like a guy that his teammates love him everywhere he's probably gone. And then, he's a guy that I feel like going into this Niners locker room, I feel like if he does end up having to play, guys can, gravitate towards him, and guys can, are willing to play for him and give him their all to Josh Dobbs. So that's obviously a plus. So love the signing. Probably one of my favorite signings of the offseason, even though it's not super significant, but it's probably one of my favorite signings in the offseason. Definitely better than Sam Darnold, last year, and definitely better than, or I definitely do prefer it compared to having Zach Wilson on this team.
Hey, great point on the chemistry and just all that stuff. And especially, because everybody loves JJ. That they talk about his chemistry and his vibe, and it's one of a kind, and it's different, and it's hella cool, and yee. And all those kind of things. So that's a great point. I mean, because those things get swept under, but that, the vibe of Josh Dobbs compared to Zach Wilson, I was over here like, oh man, two things are gonna happen with Zach. He's gonna get humbled and be a 49er, or he's gonna take the easy way and remain the same. And we're gonna have to, hopefully not hear no bull crap through the season.
No, but you could tell, Kels. You could tell last year, like Jets players and like fans were like done. They were like, dude, like as much as they're not gonna bash Zach Wilson in front of the media and throw him under the bus, because obviously that's not the most professional thing to do. But you could tell, like they're like, we had Aaron Rodgers, who obviously got hurt, but we're a team that could freaking win the Super Bowl this year. If Robert Saleh just went out and got maybe a Carson Wentz or someone that's even capable, we could have even made at least the playoffs, right? Like Super Bowl might be a stretch without Aaron Rodgers, but we could have been a playoff team last year. But instead, we were riding Zach Wilson, who's, throwing dudes under the bus, missing throws left and right, not playing well, and we're losing games. And the defense was playing really good last year. I think the defense ranked number 1 in multiple categories, yet you still weren't able to make the playoffs. So, I mean, guys were done with him. Imagine him on this year's Niners team. Like, if Brock Purdy hypothetically got hurt and you had Zach Wilson as the quarterback too, and you're a team that's literally a Super Bowl favorite, and you had Zach Wilson as your starting quarterback because Brock Purdy hypothetically got hurt, that would be ugly. Like, Niners players, as much as they ain't going to say it, to the media, they wouldn't like it. Like, they would not like it at all.
Yeah, I would say outside of the 49ers drafting a quarterback in the 7th round, I think the quarterback room is complete. I think it did get better. Joshua Dobbs, I think he got his degree in like aerospace engineer. So he obviously is very intelligent. He has been on 4 different teams in the last 5 years. So he has had to, learn multiple systems throughout his time in the NFL. And I think that obviously helps him. He dealt with hella adversity getting traded like midweek to Minnesota, then learning a few plays, playing on Sunday, and I think they won on that Sunday. So Baller mentioned earlier that he is mobile, which of course is a plus. When you look at his stats, they don't jump out, but I think he'll be a solid backup for the Niners. It's a 1-year deal. And let's see what he does in this system. Also, this is this will be the best offensive team that he's played on with the weapons that we have. So we should see the best out of him if necessary, if Brock gets hurt. But yeah, I'm excited to see him in preseason, what he does. I think that's obviously when we'll see him the most, hopefully, if everything goes right with Brock and his health during the regular season. So, but I like it. I agree with the mean. I think it was probably a top 2, top 3 signing of the Niners, this offseason for sure. Real quick, there was some NFL free agency news. Everyone's favorite quarterback, Jimmy G, signs with the Rams. What were you guys' thoughts about that? We'll see him again in the NFC West. Real quick, what were your thoughts on that, Amin?
like I don't even know for me personally, because I have such a hatred towards Jimmy Garoppolo. Not a hatred, but just like a bitterness towards Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, I wouldn't even sign Jimmy G as my quarterback 4. Like, I don't even want him on my practice squad. Nothing. I don't want Jimmy G near my roster. Okay, I don't want him near my city. Like, that's how much bitterness I have towards Jimmy Garoppolo. And it's not even that he lost the Super Bowl or things like that, but it's like we would be like losing games and he would be hurt and he would be like smiling on the sideline, and I'm just like, do you care even a little bit? Like, so I mean, listen, LA, have fun with Jimmy G. It's kind of funny though. Jimmy G went to Cali, then he goes to Vegas, and now he's in LA, Hollywood. Like, Jimmy G, man, he's going to some nice places, man, and he doesn't even have to play, and he making bank in LA. Like, okay, Jimmy, but yeah, have fun with him. Have fun with him, Los Angeles Rams fans. Y'all got a good one. Y'all got a good one.
Yeah, man, they trying to get the intel from Jimmy. They want to know about all that weird stuff Jimmy was talking about when he was with the Raiders. He said, there's a lot of weird stuff, and he might have even called it San Fran at that point in time. So the relationship didn't end on. I think when the 49ers let him go, they just barely even said anything. Kyle was through, Jimmy was through. I hope we see him. I hope to God we get to see Jimmy, and we get to see him, his little feet moving 100 miles an hour, but not going nowhere. The jittery G. I hope he's throwing pick eights and all that kind of stuff. I hope we get to see the full experience of, I'll let you take it off from there, Jay. Maybe you got a little, example of what Jimmy does, because I almost said it, but man, yeah, I hope we get to see Jimmy. That'd just be awesome, man. When it's an entertainment business, who wouldn't want to see Jimmy in a Ram uniform versus the 49ers? Nick Bosa, might pull a flag plant, or he might have something special brewed up for Garoppolo. I'd love to see it.
Jimmy G. Jimmy, he's looking to the left. He's looking to the right, and then he throws a pick. Nah, it's smart that the Rams signed Jimmy G, like you said, to get that intel about the 49ers. I think Jimmy, he'll be a decent backup quarterback. I don't envision him being a starter, or at least a team signing him to be a starter. So I think he could play another 5-10 years if he wanted to and just be a backup quarterback. Obviously we know he's experienced, but it is funny that he is in the NFC West now. So hey, hats off to Jimmy. I ain't got no ill will towards Jimmy. But I thought it was just funny that he's now in the NFC West. So
hey, and if the Rams think they get an intel from Jimmy Garoppolo is like in his third or fourth year with the Niners, and he still had the little strap and was looking at the strap pre-snap. So if y'all really sign Jimmy G for intel, I don't know how much intel y'all gonna get from Jimmy Garoppolo in terms of football on the field. He might be the facility, we got some nice, the chef makes a really good macaroni and cheese and things like that. He could tell you those type of intel maybe, but in terms of on the field, yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna cape up for Jimmy, but I think he will be solid in a pinch. If you needed him to start a few games, if Stafford gets hurt, I mean, there are definitely worse guys you can have in there than Jimmy if you needed him to start a few games. I mean, I would just say that. Hey, but we have to talk about real quick. Should have asked this when Baller was here, but one of the greatest defensive linemen of all time decided to hang it up. Another guy who used to play with the Rams, Aaron Donald. I mean, one of the most decorated players, definitely in our era, 10-time Pro Bowler, 3 times Defensive Player of the Year, 8-time All-Pro. I think they said he's one of only 2 players to get elected to the Pro Bowl in every year that he played in the NFL, which was exactly 10 years. I think Barry Sanders was another player who had that same, title, 10 straight Pro Bowls. So, obviously every NFL team was rejoicing about this except for the Rams. But, what were you guys' thoughts on it? Obviously we know what he does. Hell of a player. Probably, he's probably the greatest defensive tackle, at least in the last 25, 30 years. You definitely put him up there with Warren Sapp and guys like that. But yeah, what were you guys' thoughts, man, when you saw that?
Donald who? Donald who? I mean, I don't even know what we're talking about right now. Nah, but on the real, it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird with me. It's like he's obviously a flat out beast, but it just feels like I never really. I mean, it's probably mainly because of his position. It just never felt like he was just like the greatest of all time. Just you throw on the tape, and I know I could throw on the tape, but you look at LT and you look at some of the even a Reggie White, man, just I mean,
JJ
tossing
Watt.
folks.
Yeah.
It just never felt like he was that caliber, but maybe it was because he was in the middle. That's just me. That's just what I saw. I know he's a beast. I know he commanded so many double teams and this, and maybe it's the bias because of the Rams, but I'm just like, yeah, man. Hey, good looking. Please do retire. Like, I hope we never get to see you again. Uh, Before we got to hit up Daddy Brunskill. Where did he go, by the way? Like, was it the Jags?
Tennessee.
Is he with
Tennessee.
Tennessee still?
Yeah.
No, it was the blue team. Yeah, man. So now, but props to him. Real talk. You know, I got some other thoughts, and I ain't even gonna go there with Aaron Donald, but just when it comes to DeAndre Hopkins and Mooney Ward back in the day when they was talking all the crap about steroid boy, I've always kind of looked at Aaron Donald that same kind of a way, but that's just me, man. That's just me. But is what it is in this league. It's a business.
Daniel Brunskill's son, I mean, had a hell of a career. First ballot Hall of Famer, a legend. Nah, but in all honesty, Aaron Donald's a legend. He's a top 5 defensive player of all time. As much as I didn't like playing against him, obviously, and obviously I didn't like the fact that he played for a division rival. You can't deny the greatness of Aaron Donald. To obviously make in all of his seasons, make Pro Bowls, make multiple 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, made it. Obviously it's not that significant, but to be multiple times voted number 1 in top 100 NFL players, to be a defensive player and to win that. I mean, Aaron Donald's had a phenomenal career as a hell of a player. He has the ring, he has all the accolades, so Aaron Donald's a legend, arguably, or at least in my opinion, I think a top 5 defensive player of all time. So yeah, you got to respect it. As much as he played for the Rams, you got to respect it.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm just a bitter Niner fan. I don't want to give him.
Clearly, yeah. But no, hats off to him, man. Hell of a career, much respect. He always laid it out on the line, and every team that went up against the Rams, you had to account for 99 in the middle. You had to figure out a way to neutralize him or slow him down. And I guess that's the truest form of respect, is people are actually happy that you retired because you can no longer wreak havoc on their offensive game plan. So yeah, I won't miss seeing him out there, but hey, I think he was fun to watch if he's not playing your squad. I would say that, because all he can do on the field. So hey, did you guys have anything else you wanted to hit on regarding 49ers free agency? Any notable signings just in general throughout the NFL? Feel free to speak on it now. I remember, Kels, I didn't get your opinion on the 49ers new coaching hires. I don't know if you and Baller talked about that. I know you guys did a show the previous week, but
I'm thinking, who did we get?
So, we upgraded Sorensen to defensive coordinator.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I like it because he is there. It feels like that's another reason why I think our defense is going to be better, is because there's not going to be this filling out. I feel like Brandon Staley probably is, I believe his title is assistant head coach. And I think he's going to be exactly that. We've been talking, numerous times. We need someone, a right-hand man for Kyle Shanahan, whether it be clock management, whatever it is. And I feel like
he still didn't get it. He chose someone for the defensive side, though.
Yeah, but he was still a one-time head coach, so he just has that. I feel like, look, I love Anthony Lynn. You know, I just love him. But when you're a head coach and you've taken that on, you know, I feel like Staley, regardless of his yogas or whatever the hell, like, you know, I feel like he could possibly be an upgrade. You know what I'm saying? I feel like,
Yeah.
you know, he can help with the defense and help with the offense, you know. And then we already got the defensive guys situated. He's been there. He knows the deal. He knows what's up. He's very familiar. There's not going to be miscommunication with Sorensen and Kyle. And
Yeah.
Sorensen, you know, comes from Super Bowl winning team, you know, with the Seahawks. I've mentioned that back in the day with the Snyder and Sorensen, both coming from Seattle. So, you know, it's his time. You know, their former Seattle players were speaking, you know, congratulating them. You know, it's
Also KJ Wright too. So I think that
yeah,
was good. Yeah, I think
yeah.
Staley should help Sorensen with like game planning and things like that. And Sorensen, he's never been a coordinator, so I think there's going to be an adjustment as far as calling plays. But I think he'll just get better as the season
But can I
progresses.
can I say something real quick, Jay?
Absolutely.
Looking back at it, like looking back at last season and looking back at the Wilkes hire, the only issue that I have with the Wilkes hire is that obviously Kyle Shanahan brought in Wilkes with the assumption that Wilkes is going to run the system that the Niners like running. But at the same time, you look at Wilkes when he was defensive coordinator for other teams in the past. Wilkes was heavy on blitz. Like he brought blitz and he was heavy on that and calling blitzes. And that's not what Kyle Shanahan likes. And you saw it in the Super Bowl where Steve Wilkes was bringing blitz and Kyle Shanahan's like, nah, we're not doing that. Timeout, timeout. And I'm like, as much as I get it, you probably had the assumption that he's running your scheme. But when a dude, is heavy on doing certain things and he likes to run his defense a certain way and he has certain tendencies, there's no way he's going to completely change his tendencies in one season just to go off what you like. That's not going to happen, right? He's going to coach the way that he feels is best for this team, but there's obviously the difference in philosophy. So I feel like if Kyle Shanahan was not necessarily a little bit more prepared, but I feel like he should have probably at least saw that to a certain extent where Wilkes was going to come in and have some of the tendencies and do some of the things that Wilkes wanted to do with this defense. And if Kyle Shanahan didn't want him to call blitz all the time or didn't want him to do certain things, Kyle Shanahan should have just either hired someone internally or even brought in someone else that, that he probably could have thought would run his defense the way that he wanted to. Whereas Wilkes wasn't going to run his defense 100% the way that he wanted to. And I'm not saying that Nick Sorensen will either, but Wilkes likes to bring the blitz, and that's the way that he likes to run his defense, and he calls blitz a lot of the time. So if Kyle Shanahan didn't like that, I feel like, Kyle, you got to be a little bit more, not necessarily prepared, but you got to see that, right? He's not going to change his entire defensive scheme just for you.
I
Especially
think real quick, I just think
right.
it was the timing of his blitzes that were the issue, and I think throughout this season, Shanahan just didn't trust Wilkes, and I think we saw that in the Super Bowl. We saw that in other games that he didn't trust him. Now he has a guy, Sorensen, who's been in the system. I think it'll be his second or third year with the squad, I think. So hopefully there's a better rapport there between the two.
Yeah,
And then it's cool with Staley because you have Staley who, if Sorensen, is struggling a little bit or he's, Kyle Shanahan has some issues with the game plan, you have Staley who either can obviously, help with the game plan throughout the week, but then if Sorensen, is struggling, you have Staley who can come in and, be the defensive coordinator as well. Yeah. And he'll run what Kyle Shanahan wants him to run, so.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes me think what was the major keys to why they hired him, like in the interview process, like especially with the older guy who's well established being a defensive coordinator. That's probably the least likely guy that's gonna mold, or maybe they looked at it the opposite way. Maybe that'll be the easiest guy to mold. But typically you would want a D'Amico Ryans, a Robert Saleh, a Nick Sorensen type of a guy. If you're a Kyle Shanahan, I want it my way or no way type, deal. So it's kind of with the more looking back on the Steve Wilkes hire, it's like, what was the point?
Maybe he wanted a veteran or elder statesman there.
I was hoping that. That whatever the greatest thing Wilkes was at, it would rub off and it would work together with Kyle and vice versa. It would just kind of, and sometimes, for whatever reason, certain relationships just don't work.
Don't work out. Yeah. And Wilkes' signature was the secondary, and I think the secondary played pretty well. I mean, Mooney Ward had I don't remember if he was all pro, but it was like borderline all pro back half of the season. Demo Lenore was pretty good. So maybe he was also brought on to get more out of those guys, Jair Brown, Huff. So maybe that was also.
Kels, you brought up a good point though, because when you have a guy that's a little bit older, it's kind of hard for him to change his ways in a way because he's set in what he likes to do, right? So if you brought in a Belichick, hypothetically, right? If you hypothetically brought in a Belichick is running his system the way that he wants to run his system because he has the defensive philosophies and he believes in those defensive philosophies. So as much as I understand, it might help the DBs in bringing in Steve Wilkes, having a guy that's older, number one, he has his defensive philosophies and he's set on his defensive philosophies. And not to mention, Steve Wilkes was up in the booth, right? And you look at what the Niners, Robert Saleh, dude, I love Robert Saleh's energy. I love his energy on the sideline, especially with the Niners high-fiving dudes, clapping, headset falling off. He's getting hyped. D'Amico, the same thing. Steve Wilkes was an older dude. He's not bringing that level of intensity on the sideline. He isn't, jumping up and down, chest bumping Fred Warner with his pads on. He ain't doing none of that.
He needs whatever Pete Carroll got in his cup. That man, Pete, man, he keep it moving for sure.
I mean, that rah-rah that you get from a coach is nice to see, but I'm sure players feed off of it, but do they necessarily need it? No. I mean, Belichick wasn't that type of guy. But it's interesting that Shanahan brought in, like we mentioned, an older guy when he's never really done that before.
Vic Fangio, that's why, it's kind of like, how come Vic Fangio or, but you never know. Hey, I think there's a lot of still, I know it's in year 7. I still think there's a lot of experimenting. I mean, when really isn't there experimenting? If you're not experimenting, maybe you're not trying as hard as you should be. But then I would also like to see some consistency and a well-established foundation. You don't want to keep on plastering new cement on top of already made cement, and then stuff's going to crack and crumble and not, I would love, hopefully we get to see some kind of consistency to where we could see year 2 and year 3, and we're not trying to mold things and situate things and, this is the next excuse. It didn't work. And I know it's the NFL. I know people keep on wanting our coaches because we're one of the better teams in the league, and one of the better defenses in the league. But it would be nice to see, consistency and just a good flow.
Speaking of consistency and continuity, that's exactly what Shanahan is doing with this offensive line. That's why he hasn't brought in top flight guys in free agency. As someone mentioned earlier, the 49ers can still draft offensive linemen, but I just think Shanahan, I'm not agreeing with Shanahan, but I think he's just doubled down and he's like, we got to the Super Bowl.
Jay, but let's be real, Jay.
A2 offensive line,
Feliciano.
It can only get better. That's what Shanahan.
But let's be real, Jay. Let's be real. You draft an offensive lineman. That offensive lineman isn't even guaranteed to start in this offense. That's how Shanahan is. You could have a guy even Jair Brown last year, for example, who played really well in the starts that he got, and then come playoff time, Kyle Shanahan's like, the pressure might get to him. It's too big of a moment. And then you have a veteran who freaking sucked that playoff game, and you could have potentially lost that playoff game just because of Logan Riles' missed tackle on Aaron Jones on that one play, right? So, Kyle, even if you hypothetically draft a first-round pick in the, an offensive lineman with your first-round pick, whoever that might be, right? Amarius Mims, Graham Barton, whoever you draft hypothetically, if they do end up drafting an offensive lineman, there's no guarantees that offensive lineman will even start because Kyle Shanahan has this thing where he's like, I don't trust my rookies. I don't play my rookies. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, kind of like with the Steve Kerr thing. It's like, I don't care how well Kuminga plays. I'm starting Dario Saric because he's more experienced over Kuminga. Kuminga, you could give me 18 points in 18 minutes. Dario Saric is still starting in the starting lineup over you. And it's like, really? That don't make no sense.
No, I completely agree with you, but I'm just thinking on the other side of how Shanahan thinks and what we've had. Aaron Banks was probably the highest. No, McGlinchey. So McGlinchey and Banks were basically the highest, positions that we've drafted along the offensive line in the draft. And I just don't. If we draft offensive linemen in the draft, that's cool. Then you have to develop them. We saw Banks sat out the first year, and as you said, there's no guarantee. But I don't think Shanahan would make that decision on the offensive line. I think he would lean toward Chris Forrester, the offensive line coach, and decide who plays better. Like, we'll never know. Like, who knows why Feliciano got more starts over Burford? Like, obviously he was better, but was that a Chris Forrester decision? Was that a Kyle Shanahan decision? I guess we'll never know. But I just hope they continue to make the team better, and that's what they've done this offseason. Have they done everything? No. But I think this team still continues to get better. And we've got, 10, 11 picks in the draft. So there's plenty of more opportunities for this squad.
I agree with Kels though, but I think you need to adjust the offensive line one way or another, because let's be honest also is that if you hypothetically have a Feliciano that gets hurt, or you have an Aaron Banks that get hurt, or even Jake Brendel, I don't trust Nick Zakelj or Spencer Burford, whoever you have behind those guys.
Jalen Moore.
Yeah, Jalen Moore. I don't want any of those guys playing, right? And you're depth to that position, like even on the defensive line, if one of your guys gets hurt, I still, if Leonard Floyd is out for a couple of weeks, I still have some level of confidence in a Drake Jackson to come in and step up, or even a Robert Beal to come in and step up. I got zero faith, respectfully, in Nick Zakelj or Jalen Moore to come in and step up if one of those guys gets hurt. And if you do end up drafting an offensive lineman, like I said, I don't know if they will start. And that's the thing, is that your Super Bowl window is now. Your team is getting older. As much as Brock Purdy's on that rookie contract, Debo is getting older. Ayuk wants the contract. There's no guarantees that he's coming back and re-signing with his team if the Niners don't give him what he wants. Fred Warner, Kittle's getting older. Juszczyk is getting older. This team is getting older. The Super Bowl window was obviously last year, and the Super Bowl window is getting smaller and smaller, and it's coming to its end. And I respect what the Rams are doing. I respect what the Lions are doing, because they lost some pieces. Like the Lions lost some of their offensive linemen, but they're signing offensive linemen that they could start right now. The Rams, they invested in that offensive line because they also understand is that our defense is young and it isn't great, but if we want to win with Stafford, we have to address that offense and that offensive line, because that gives us the best opportunity to win. So I'm not worried about this defense, but Kyle, even if you do draft a guy and you think that will help, if he doesn't end up starting, then how does that really benefit your offensive line? Whereas the other teams in the division, they're getting better. Like the Eagles got better this year. The Lions got better this year. The Rams got better. The Packers got better. Teams are getting better. And let's be real, last year in the playoffs, you barely beat the Packers and you barely beat the Lions. So it's only getting harder. And if you're not, at least if I'm not confident in your, what you're in your offensive line, and if one of those guys gets hurt, like a Feliciano, or one of them gets hurt, I'm not really confident in that group.
No, I would agree. And usually top tier offensive linemen don't reach free agency, but the guys you mentioned, those are the guys, the backups that the 49ers have on the offensive line. Those are guys they've drafted. So they've drafted them, they've tried to develop them, and they haven't been able to really crack that starting lineup. So they're going to bring in more guys. I just would be surprised if you draft the offensive lineman and they're able to beat one of the guys who are currently your starters. Should they continue to add talent to the offensive line? Absolutely. I agree with you. I think it is kind of the weak unit on the squad outside of Trent Williams, but outside of drafting, and there's no guarantee that those guys are going to be better than who we have now, I don't see how else they can really get better. Now there are some free agents on the market along the offensive line. I would love to know if the Niners are even kicking the tires on those guys. Like, are they calling Mekhi Becton? Are they calling Dalton Risner? Are they calling Kevin Zeitler? Like, are they even making contact? Like, I would love to know. I would love to be an ant on the wall, or a fly on the wall. Do they really think this offensive line is bad? Do they really think that it needs to be upgraded? Because they haven't really shown it.
I really could see Kyle. You've kind of convinced me tonight, Jay. I really could see Kyle saying, if Feliciano was in there, and Burser didn't miss that assignment, we would have won the Super Bowl with the line that I assembled. I could really see Kyle. I think about it. I mean, you know
I
how
can see that
Kyle,
too.
you know how Kyle is. Kyle could be like, shoot, even it coming down to one play is a massive win with the line I assembled. Like, you know what I'm saying? Colton McKivitz is a gold helmet. You know, he's a gold standard, you know. But to your point, I mean, the Rams, they do got a second. They got 2 seconds, 2/3, and a fourth rounder on their offensive line. And that's a little bit above average when it comes to investing round by round. And us, you know, we got Trent, first round, second round, you know, Brendel, you know, that I put that as the 8th round undrafted free agent, and then a fourth in Feliciano and a fifth in Colton McKivitz. And when you go from center to the right side and it's 8, 4, and 5, you know, those, you know, that's the biggest reason why the 49ers are the least invested when it comes to draft stock in the NFL, tied with the Raiders and the Commanders, which is no surprise why, you know, they're not playoff teams.
And
Or
Shanahan,
it's kind of incredible though that we've been able to do what we've done, you know, being as top heavy as we are. That's where it kind of balances out.
and Shanahan's proving that he doesn't. That's like the least of his worries is the offensive line. But really, we should be protecting the king, right? We should be protecting Brock, also adding weapons to his weaponry. But I don't know. Hey, we'll see what happens in the draft. Maybe they draft 3 offensive linemen. I don't know. We'll see.
Jay, going back to
If there was ever a time to
the
trade,
time is now. It's
if there
now.
was ever a time like to where if you did trade, you know, maybe not a Ayuk, but trade something else to move up and get like to where you're not right on the fringe of, oh, I hope Mims drops, or I hope, you know, do something bold like you did.
Yeah.
Hey, I know we always look at the past. Oh, look what they did with Trey Lance. Look what they did with Buckner. But hey, man, you can't. At some point, you got it. I mean, Trent will retire. You know, Brendel really isn't that good. Colton really isn't. They are good for who they are. You know, they got the cohesiveness, they got the chemistry, but you got to invest. And like, you know, we got our franchise guy. If you really believe he's the franchise guy in Brock Purdy,
Gotta protect
hey,
him.
you got to protect him. Every
Yeah.
season is ending with something with the quarterback or blown. How many, you know, Steve Wilkes held him to 6 points, and, you know, how many, you know, free rushers did, you know, Brock have to fend off? I don't know how many times he got sacked. That's pretty amazing, but you can't expect someone who's already a smaller stature like Brock, you know, to get comfortable and freaking, you know, keep on continuously try to avoid injuries. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I feel like last year it was really lucky with who we got for him to finish the whole season.
No, well said. I believe we traded down for Banks. I believe we traded back in the draft and then we picked up Banks. I believe, because I remember, I think it was either, I think it was Pat Surtain or maybe Asante Samuel were still on. They were still available to be drafted. And I think the Chargers picked him up, and then we traded back. And you know, I think that's what happened. But I think Amin had something he wanted to say. He'll be back. But yeah, man. I mean, I like the 49ers direction. Obviously, there are areas on the squad where we should get better. Probably, you know, depth along the. Did you have something you wanted to add? I mean, I know you
but
were.
that's the thing. That's the thing, Jay, is that you, even if you end up drafting offensive linemen,
Yeah.
like are they going to start, right? And like Lothar had a question: did McGlinchey start his rookie year? McGlinchey had to start his rookie year because you let go of Trent. You let go of not Trent Williams. You let go of Trent Brown, right? And he was your tackle, and you let go of him. He had to start no matter what, right? So like it was one of those It was one of those situations where you had to start him because he was the best option. Whereas like looking at this offensive line now, even if you go out and draft like 4 offensive linemen in this draft, cool, but there's no guarantees that those guys will even start. So it's like,
Even
But they have to be better than what's there. I know
I know,
the
but you had
what I
better
mean,
options. You had
but what
better
I mean
options
is
in free
saying,
agency.
it's like, look, Jair Brown is probably clearly better than Logan Ryan, but Shanahan be stuck in his ways. And so
right.
even if we did get a Jason, who is it, Powers? Because I would, it's kind of hard, but like I would really, really want that center, right? But let's say you go get the absolute best center. Let's say that hypothetically there was a center in the draft that was like that was just a surefire. I could see Kyle being like, yeah, he's better, he's more talented, but Jake Brendel knows my
System, yeah.
complex system. He
Yeah.
knows my complex system, and it takes a while. And look at Danny Gray, and look at Jair, and look at some of these guys who probably their talents could be utilized, or at least a really, really great coach. Even if someone is making little boneheaded plays, you can still dial up something to utilize what you got. We seen McCall or Hardman. He wasn't really doing a whole lot, but he got utilized in the damn. So he outplayed Debo. Hardman outplayed Debo. He outplayed Kittle. You know,
like Matt Araiza, a dude who had some issues off the field. Andy Reid was like, "Frick it, let me go get Matt Araiza. Let me make this team even potentially better than it already is." Right? Like, whereas like Kyle has a dude that's clearly better than Jair Brown. It's like we're starting Logan Ryan, or it just doesn't make sense. Like Danny Gray, who you drafted in the 3rd round, that you haven't used at all, right?
Well, Gray got hurt.
he got hurt.
And also, if you don't block, you're not going to get snaps. But eventually, all roads lead to Shanahan. So, I mean, that's pretty much what it comes down to. We know what type of guy he is, and so far, it hasn't worked. But it doesn't matter because he's already been rewarded with the contract. So he's like, why should I change my way of thinking? Why should I upgrade the offensive line? It's already good enough. I could scheme past
but
that.
Is it though? Is it not? But Jay, is it good enough because you haven't won the Super Bowl? Is it really good enough? Your quarterback was running around, scrambling, right, in the playoffs, trying to make things happen. Is it really good enough?
Says it is. The guy York says it is good enough.
York doesn't care. York doesn't care. As long as York is able to fill the seats, York thinks anything is good enough. All right. Like as long as so York, I'm not even like tripping off York. But Kyle, come on, dude.
But that's that's what adds and fuels to Kyle's ego is York has said, hey, you're good, man. We got you a contract extension. It doesn't matter. You ain't won the Super Bowl. It doesn't matter. That's what adds to Kyle's ego. It starts from the top.
And look at the genius in the revenue. Now we're over here fired up, talking for 2 hours. At least 30% of it has been about the dislike about Kyle's. He's the revenue king, bro. He is. I'm being real when I say this too. He is a genius at revenue, man. Shoot, look at all the YouTubers. Didn't Grant Cohn? He's making a living off of talking about all these boneheaded things that Kyle has done the past 7 freaking years. It's real though. It's real. Unfortunately, I had to learn, Jay and the Bay, had to lace me up on the business side of things, and it's real, man, because that's why Jed is content, but we still are. God, it sucks to say it. It's like we're the 2nd best team, every year. We're the 3rd best team every year. And it's one of the hardest positions to be in as a fan. You know what I'm saying? It's like you keep hey, this last Super Bowl, we found the closest way. Like, I thought we were as close as you can get, you know what I'm saying, in 19 and even some of the other years, but we found a way to get even to inch it even closer. The suspense, the heartbreak, that's
the thing, man. Kels.
It fuels revenue, man. It just does. It's unfortunate, but we all love it. We all love this game. I wish there were some things I didn't know about it, but I do, and I gotta just hope that we're gonna break through regardless.
Kels, that's what sucks though. Is like as a Niners fan, you have hope. Like you have hope that you might win a Super Bowl every single year. Like as a Cowboys fan, I'm gonna be real. As a Cowboys fan, you ain't winning the Super Bowl. Like as a Cowboys fan, you know it, right? So if you delusional and you're like, you delusional and you're like, we winning the Super Bowl this year. This is our year. We went 12-5 and beat only one playoff team in the Miami Dolphins, and we win in the Super Bowl. Otherwise, we haven't beat any other team over 500, but we win in the Super Bowl. Like you delusional. On the other hand, the Niners, we'll have games where we should have lost to the Packers, we ended up winning, or we'll literally come down 20 points and beat the Lions, and then you lose in the Super Bowl the way that you do, and you're just like, come on, dude. Like, you have so much hope. You're on the top of the mountain. And it's not like you like fall off the mountain slowly. It's almost like you're at the top of the mountain and you just like fall down and you just die.
Hey,
It's
you
like,
just made me think of something though. I mean, have we ever? When was the last time we had like a comeback playoff win? That's got to be hella encouraging though, because all last year we were talking about can Brock Purdy come back?
but then to lose like that, Ted Kells, to lose in
Nah,
the
I
Super
know,
Bowl like
I
that,
know,
I'm just like, come
I know,
on.
I know. I could talk about 15 different plays in that game, and I already know, my man. But hey, it's got to be encouraging to just even hearing we did come back on those 2 games. But that's one thing that stood out to me so massively versus the Lions before the halftime was like, oh my God, like that, man, their offensive line, bro. Like probably halfway through the second quarter, I'm researching where each one of their offensive linemen was drafted. It's first round, second round, third round. It was like, well, shit, no wonder why. They massively invested there and they were like whooping us in the trenches. It was a
The Niners,
miracle.
they haven't invested in the offensive line, and it's come back to hurt us. That's for sure. So hopefully Shanahan and Lynch learn from their ways, and hey, we'll see what happens in the draft. But I just want to say I appreciate everyone for watching tonight. Whatever channel you are watching on, we appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out. I like the direction the squad is going. Eager to witness the draft and talk about it with you gents. But final thoughts. Go ahead, Kelts. What you got, man? Final thoughts.
Final thoughts on the Niners. Just excited for the draft. I like what we've done so far too. It's kind of like, what could we have done? I kind of look at it like, all right, if we didn't get Floyd and maybe another, it's like we really haven't spent a lot, right? It's like, we got a couple of $10 million moves, here, a little. It's like if we took 2 or 3 of those players off, what's the big splash we would have got on the offensive line, and how would that balance out compared to the defense? So, I like having multiple pieces instead of, on the defense, especially the defense is going to be rotating and we needed it. We lost, quite a bit from that line. So that was a place that we needed to do that there. But now let's shift that focus and do what we got to do in the draft, whether they're utilized or not. I seen in the comments, someone said Burford was played as a rookie, but to the lukewarmness or double thinking or triple thinking that Kyle Shanahan does, he didn't just play his rookie year. I think it was the first time ever we seen a non-injured offensive lineman be rotated with. I think it was Brunskill and Burford. Am I like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that do you really want to do that to a guy who needs maybe all the time he can get to build that cohesiveness? So that was kind of weird. So there's something that Kyle needs to get over on the balancing. You would think by year 7, he would have the balancing act down. Should I go experience? Should I go that? You would think he would have some of those things locked in. And I hope, I'm going to be hopeful when the season come rolling around. Come on, Kyle, let's go. I'm going to be rooting for him. Hopefully he's continuing to build, even though I did see, I think today somewhere on Twitter where it was 2017 or 16, where there was a headline of Kyle needs to face the music, or he needs to face certain things before he could be a good coach. And it feels like we're saying the same things 7 years later. So I'm hopeful, but he is who he is. He's a grown man. Hopefully we don't. It's like, it's hard because I wish the 3rd and 4 never happened, that play call. But hopefully the next guy who is in there when Kyle's playing it razor thin with his protection, because that's how Kyle's looking at it, I think. He's like, my play was perfect. I don't care if I pulled Jake Brendel to the left or not. If the assignment was correct, we had BA wide open. We had yada yada, so I hope he continues to just grow. You could grow at any age, man. I don't care what age you are. It's all about the want to. If Kyle wants to grow, he can do it. Put players in better situations. if your weak link is the right side, put some extra protection over there. Don't slide the center out. I hope by himself he does face take that accountability into account. And hey, we're going to be good again. We're going to be right there. We got all our main guys. There's no reason why we can't compete for a Super Bowl.
Hey Jay, they got a question for you. Someone got a question for you about a little game that happened last week. We would rather not discuss, but since they asked a couple of times, I feel like it would be wrong to not answer the question, Jay. So what happened last week?
Hey, what happened last week was, the Dream got the brakes beat off of him.
No, I felt like Philly in that Niners-Eagles game. Like I started off well,
Same
and
here.
then I just got smacked after. I got smacked.
Man, I got smacked by everybody.
Jay's 10-0, man. Like it don't make sense. It don't make sense.
Baller smacked me. Freaking Jay in the Bay beat the.
And then I freaking lost to Kels. I lost to Kels also, bro.
I felt like that. I felt like that was like a sympathy. I felt like, man, Amin had just like the slightest bit of sympathy.
Nah, see, Kels, I got arrogant, man. See, that's the thing, Kels. I got arrogant.
For real, there wasn't.
Nah, the second time, I told you, Kels. The second time I played you, I had a Chipotle burrito in one hand and the controller in the other. Like, and I got arrogant. So I'm not gonna lie to you, Kels. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I was playing you that time. And I was watching like YouTube videos and I was just doing my thing. And I was like, all right, it's going to be light work. It's going to be easy. And I'm like, I got it in the bag. We good. And then you ended up winning it by I
went for 2 at the end.
2-point conversion. And I'm like, oh crap. I ended up losing this game. I shouldn't have, taking it easy. So
I thought it was because my dog passed away. I was like, oh man, Amin is a good kid, man. He really, barely took off the gas.
like you say, Kels, I thought I was gonna mollywop you, so I was just chilling. I had YouTube in the background, had some podcasts in the background, doing my thing back and forth.
Yeah, you can't sleep average OG, bro. You can't sleep on the
Any given Sunday.
Oh my God, those interceptions versus Jay, bro. I swear to God.
Man, Jay's user was crazy the second time I played him. Man. Your user was crazy. Like I didn't even see your linebacker sometimes, and I would throw it, and I'm like, all right, bam. And I was like, interception. Jay would take that. I'm like, dude, where the hell is this? I didn't even see his user. Like
I was throwing some real Jimmy G over the middles. Man, there was a couple where I pressed the wrong button on what. No excuses, but there was.
It happens.
Stuff that I was like,
you still gotta see us in the playoffs, Jay. You still gotta see us in the playoffs.
Absolutely. So you never know. Any given Sunday, you gotta take everyone serious.
That's just like the Rams. We lost, in the regular season, but I'm like, if it does come down to the playoffs, I think I got you, Jay. So
okay,
I talk smack, Jay. I have fun talking smack. So
we need your signature outro. The Dream.
We finishing off like that. All right, Bang bang Niner gang. So
peace. We'll see y'all on the next one.
Bang bang. Yee! We getting it, boy.
What's good? You know who it is. It's your boy, Jay in the Bay.
Your baller back again. Smells like football season.
Yeah.